Anyways, let's start with the training. Okay. Yesterday I talked about simple things like basic Java programs, what is Selenium, how do we download the jar files, what are actually jar files. Fine. Today we will continue forward with that. Okay, and I'll tell you how do we practically use the concept of these jar files. Okay. Well, the thing is, you have to first understand the concepts of OOPS, object-oriented programming. So that's what I'll do now. I'll create a new Java project, day 2, and I'll make you understand the concept of object-oriented programming. Fine. Now, what do you mean by the concept of object-oriented programming? In this source folder, I'll create a new class, right? And suppose I will name the class as a very simple name, say car. Right? This is the class car. Now, what are the features of this car class? Right? Suppose the feature is string name, the name of the car. Right? This is one of the features of the car. Then int capacity, right? And just a minute, right? Then there is another feature like int number of wheels in the car, right? And similarly, in a class we can also make functions, right? So these are some variables, and I can also make a function like this: public void start. So this function is responsible for starting the car. Okay. Inside this function, I can write system.out.println starting the car plus the name of the car. What do you mean by plus? Plus is a concatenation operator. So it will print whatever is the name of the car you assign. It will print that starting the car and the name of the car. Okay. So this is a simple class car with some 3 properties, global properties of the car, and one function start which defines that the car is starting. Fine. Now suppose I'll make a new class called as test car. Don't think about it in terms of testing or something, just I've given the name test car. And it's got the function public static void main. What is main function? Main is the function in which the control comes in when you run the program for the first time. Okay. Main is the function which is inside the test car function, the test car class, and main function is if you have studied C language, then in that language as well, the control first comes inside the main function. Okay. Now inside the main function of the class test car, I will use the properties of car.java. So I am accessing one Java file from another Java file. It's not a big deal, you can access it. Okay. And what I will do is I will do something known as creating the object of the car class. Right? So I'll do something known as creating the object of the car class. So how do you create the object of the car class? And what do you mean by creating the object of the car class? What is the advantage? Right? So first of all, let me show you the syntax. You create the object like this: new car. When you write new car over here, this means you are creating the object. Technically, what happens in the memory technically what happens in the memory is that an object is formed, right? That object will have its own set of properties, like that object will have name, and what else was there in the car class? Wheels property, then start. So all these properties I had defined, right? Okay, I had defined all these properties for the car class, right? So all these properties will be inside the object. Okay, in the car class there were properties and there was a capacity as well. So if you restore this and hold on, there is a capacity as well. Fine. So name, wheels, and capacity are three parameters, right? And start is a function in the car class, right? I request everybody to keep their mics on mute because otherwise there's a lot of disturbance which comes up in the recording. Fine. Okay. So now, practically speaking, just a minute, somebody is not on mute. Right. Practically speaking, how this is helpful. Okay. Similarly, on the same lines, I can create as many objects of this car class as I want in the memory, and each object will have its own set of properties. There can be n number of objects inside the memory, but each object will have its own properties: name, wheels, capacity, the start function. Similar thing for other objects as well. Okay, but I cannot access them. To access them, I need an object reference. I need to write like this: car C1 equals to new car, car C2 equals to new car, car C3 equals to new car. So C1, C2 and C3 will be three references which will point towards the three car objects. It will be like this: C1 will point towards the first, C2 will point towards the second, and C3 will point towards the third object. So C1, C2, C3 are not objects, they are known as object references. Alright, C1, C2 and C3 are object references, they are not objects. Please note this point. Okay, each object will have its own property. For example, if I have to access the properties in the object which is pointed by C1, I can write C1 dot name. The name of the car is say A, and C2 dot name is B. C3 dot name is C. So this way I am assigning the name property of every car a value, right? Like the name for this car is A, this is B, and this is C, right? If you observe carefully, then in the car class you just have got one variable name, but in every object I am duplicating the variable, right? And I am accessing the object with the help of object reference. I can also print it right over here. System.out.println c1.name, c2.name and c3.name. If I run this will print A, B and C. And similarly, if I write c1 dot, I get all the features of the class which can be called, right? I can call the start function of c1. Similarly, I can call the start function of c2 and c3 as well. Okay, what is start function doing? It is starting the car and the name of the car. Now when c1 calls the start function, name of c1 will be printed. If you look at the diagram, if c1 is calling its start function, then the name of c1 will be printed in the start function. If c2 calls the start function, then name of c2 will be printed, and similarly c3. It is printing starting the car, the name of the car. So out here I am writing c1.start, c2.start, c3.start. If you run this, it prints starting the car A, B and C. So it's very necessary, it's very important to know which object reference is calling the function, right? Technically, in technical language, this function is known as non-static function. These variables are known as non-static global variables. What is non-static? You will come to know in some time. Okay, a non-static variable has a duplicate copy inside every object. Okay, every object has a duplicate copy of the non-static variable, right? And if you now, I'm going to fiddle with it a little bit. Right, I'm not talking about Selenium as of now, but telling you the concept of oops. Fine. If you actually practically go here and write like this, c1 equals to c2. Now what does this mean? c1 equals to c2. Now what I am telling practically to Java is that remove c1 from here and make it point towards the location where c2 is pointing. So objects can remain, objects are static in the memory. Okay, object references, they can jump from one object to another object. So c1 is now pointing towards the same object to which c2 is pointing. Now if I run, if I write the same thing, suppose after all this I write c1.name, c2.name and c3.name again. So now c1 is pointing to the location where c2 is pointing. If I run this, c1 and c2 will both print the name as B, because now c1 is pointing to the location where c2 is pointing, and the name of c2 is B. The name of c1 will also be. Okay, and suppose out here I write c1 dot name equals to, I change the name. So what is c1 doing? c1 is now changing the name property of the object. So B will be lost, B will be gone, and a new name will come up. A new name will come up, right? So c1 has updated the object. Okay, c1 has updated the object. If I print this thing again, you will see that the updated name will come with C1 and C2 both. Right? This is because object is one. You can have one object in the memory and multiple object references pointing toward that object. That is possible. And one reference can change the state of the object, and the other references will retrieve the latest state. Any one of the references, it can update the object in the memory. Right? But you don't need to go to such an advanced level while working with Selenium. It's very simple. Okay. Only thing you need to know is that you have got objects. You need to create the objects of the class, and with the help of object references, you can access the properties of the object. Okay. Now in Selenium, there is no rocket science involved. Everything is inbuilt. Everything is inbuilt. Everything is inbuilt inside the inbuilt classes of Selenium. If you go to seleniumhq.org and if you go to the download section, and out here you have the Java docs. If you refer the Java docs, then these are all the classes inside the Selenium API. Okay, you really don't have to worry about these classes as of now, and nobody knows the complete concept. Okay, even when I read these classes, every time I also find something new, right? But yes, you should be knowing how to read this documentation. Okay, it's purely object oriented. Okay. Now these are all the pre-built classes, and in most of the cases you have to create the objects of these classes to access the features. For example, to run Firefox, to run your test on Firefox, there is a class known as Firefox Driver. Many of you might have heard about it. Okay, there is an inbuilt class inside Selenium called Firefox Driver, and this class helps you to run the test cases on Firefox. All you need to do is that, first of all, you need to include, if you have to use test on Firefox, you have to include the Selenium jar files in your project. The way I did yesterday, you need to go to Java build path, libraries, add external jars, and you need to add the Selenium jar files. Right? Once you have the Selenium jar files out here, you have all the existing classes of Selenium in your project. Okay, so I'll create a new class now. I'll create a new class and call that class Selenium Basics. Okay, out here what I will do is I will create the object of the class Firefox Driver. Earlier we had this car class. We made this car class ourselves, and we created the object of this car class ourselves in testcar.java. Right? We created the object of the car class ourselves in testcar.java. Right? But now in Selenium we have the class inbuilt. We have the Firefox class inbuilt. You just need to create the object of this class. Say Firefox Driver ff equals to new Firefox Driver, or you just write new Firefox Driver, nothing else. This will also create the object, but there will be no reference. You will not be able to access the properties of the object. It's giving me an error. You need to import this class actually. If you move your mouse over the error, you can import the Firefox Driver. There will be an option. Click on import and it will be imported on the first line. This is imported somewhere from the jar files which are there in your project. In one of the jar files, this Firefox Driver is lying. Okay, right? If you want to find out where it is, I can show it to you. That's not a big deal. All you need to do is that you need to click on this icon over here, link with editor, this one, right? And you need to press the control button of your keyboard, and everything will look like a link. Okay, this Firefox driver will look like a link. Click on it, and on the left hand side you will see the Firefox driver.class highlighted. Okay, so it is in this jar file. Okay, this is the jar, this is the class file corresponding to the Firefox driver. You really don't have to do anything with it, but I'm just telling you for your information. Yeah, Vikram, tell me what question you have. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Yeah, hi Ashish. Actually, we already mapped this the libraries, right? But still, again, what's the need for like importing? Because we have already imported those libraries.
Because I'll tell you, there's a concept of packages in Java. This file is inside the package. You have to import it. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In coming days, I'll tell you the concept of packages. Once you know that, you will come to know why you need to import it. Right?
Okay. Fine.
Now, in case you have to import the class, again I'll tell you. You have to move your mouse over the error and select import. Okay, or the shortcut is you hit Control Shift and O of your keyboard. When you hit Control Shift O, everything would be imported automatically. Right. Now I'm creating the object of Firefox driver here. If I run this code, you see that a blank Firefox window opens up. So this is how Firefox driver works, right? But how do I Firefox driver, like how do I like click on a link on a Firefox, or how do I navigate to other stuff? For that you have to take the reference of Firefox driver. You have to write Firefox driver ff say equals to new Firefox driver. You can give any name to the reference, right? Now you can use the internal functions of Firefox. If you look at the documentation, in documentation we have got everything. All these are the methods inside Firefox driver class. Okay, don't worry, right? There are a lot of them. You don't have to remember everything by heart. Okay, we'll go slowly and steadily, and we'll study everything. Now, suppose I have to navigate to a website using Firefox driver. Then you just need to write Firefox driver dot, and like I had written over here, the car object dot. You get all the properties of the car object, right? Similarly, when you write Firefox driver ff dot, you get all the properties of the Firefox driver. Like there is a function called close. What this will do, as the name suggests, it will close the browser. If I run this, the browser will open and it will immediately be closed. You see that? It opened and it closed. Similarly, there are many functions, like there is a function called as get. If you want to navigate to a URL, then this get function can help you out. You can get the URL over here. Okay, suppose I write yahoo.com. Now this is the mistake which many people do. If I write yahoo.com simply and run this, I will get an error. Hold on, I'll show you the error. Okay, so this is the error which we get. It's a WebDriver exception. Fine. Component return failure code. This is the code, and the code is ns error malformed URL. Always read the error very carefully. Okay. Don't just panic. Fine. The error says that my URL is malformed. Basically, what is there is that you have to give the protocol. The protocol mentioning the protocol is very important in Selenium. Many people they don't do that, and that's why they get there. Now if I run the code, so this Firefox browser will open up and it will actually navigate to yahoo.com. Right? Okay. Now how is this happening? I'll talk about this as well. Right. So hold on. Fine. Now similarly, if I have to work on Chrome, how do I work on Chrome? For working on Chrome, I'll talk about other features as well. I'm just giving you a brief overview of all the browsers as of now. For working on Chrome in the documentation, we have another class known as Chrome Driver. Okay, this Chrome Driver class is responsible to work on the Chrome. They have also given a very good example on working with the Chrome and all everything, right? So, but I'll tell you how you do it. Okay, you can create the object of the Chrome Driver class. This is the Chrome Driver class. You can write Chrome driver equals to new Chrome Driver. Okay, and I'll just comment out the Firefox parts. If I'm creating the object of Chrome Driver and running it, directly I'm getting an error again. I'm expecting the Chrome to at least start up by writing this line. But if I write this line and if I run this, I get there. Now don't get little, don't panic after seeing the error. What I do is that I simply copy the first line of the error. To resolve it, I copy the first line of the error, go to Google and paste the first line. Okay, you will get n number of suggestions from people how to remove this error. Okay, so you really don't have to worry if you get an error while working with Selenium. Just copy the first line and paste it in Google. You'll get some solution. Okay, until or unless it's not a very foolish mistake from your side. Okay, if it's a genuine error corresponding to the tool, then you will get a good help. But if you have done a very foolish mistake in your code from your side, then you have to figure it out yourself. Okay. Thing is, for working with Chrome driver, you need to actually download an exe file. Okay. I'll tell you. Go to the downloads page, and for Chrome, third-party browsers. Chrome is a third-party browser. Okay, there's a download page for Chrome. You go here, and depending on your operating system, whether it is a Windows based, Mac, which operating system, you have to download the zip file. Okay, this is an exe zip file, Chrome driver.exe zip file, and once you download and extract it, you will get a file like this, Chrome driver.exe. Okay, you don't run this file, you will not get anything by running this Chrome driver.exe. This is provided by the people who made Chrome driver in Selenium. Okay, so what you need to do is that you need to go into your project and write over here system.setProperty. There is a system property. There are many system properties in Java. Okay, you can also set your own system property, right, by writing this command. If you read the error carefully, then the error says that the path to the driver executable must be set by the WebDriver.Chrome.Driver system property. Okay, so you have to write over here system.setProperty WebDriver.Chrome.Driver and give the path of that exe file, that is hdrive Chrome driver.exe. You have to write this line. In Java, you have to give double slash. It's kind of escape sequence concept. Okay, so you have to write this property. You have to set the property WebDriver.Chrome.driver. Okay, and then you initialize your Chrome driver, and if you run this, now Chrome will open successfully. You see that Chrome has opened. To work with Chrome, you have to do like this, and this is not an error. This is an information that the Chrome is working on this port. Now there is a log file also generated by Chrome in the project. Okay, in the project, if you refresh your project, you will see a Chrome driver.log file generated. If you open this log file, this has got the complete information. You will not be able to understand that much as of now, but these are the logs which are generated when Chrome driver is running. Okay. No such log is generated by Firefox Driver. It's by Chrome driver basically. Okay. So you can keep this log with you. That's not a big deal. And now, what about I? How do you work with I? Right. For working with I, well, you have got some standard procedures. First of all, I recommend everybody these days has got I8 or I9 or I10, right? Unfortunately, I have I6 because I am on a server operating system right now. I'm taking a class from a server OS, right? But I'll tell you how you can work with I. Guys, just for a small feedback, in case of I, you have to keep the protected mode in I at the same level. Okay, you should have a little bit good internet speed for the online training. Okay. So for I, you should have, if I write over here, protected or changing protected mode in I. You will get the documentation. How do you do? I say just turn it off. Okay, just turn off the protected mode in I. Right, you can change the protected mode in I. Just turn it off. Right. So when you turn off the protected mode in I, right, then you can work with I. It's very important to do that. Just follow the steps on this location, and you'll get it. Right. After you have done that, you have to go to the Selenium site, and similar to Chrome driver, there is iDriver.exe available. This is the Internet Explorer server driver. Depending on your operating system, 32-bit or 64-bit, you download it. Right? I don't have it. I'll download it right now. You download this. And you extract it. When you extract it, you will get this file, iDriver.server.exe. iDriverServer.exe, sorry. So I'll put it in my Edge drive. Now, similar to Chrome, you have to put this file in the path. You have to write system.setProperty WebDriver.i.driver, and in the value you have to give the path of exe, that is Edge drive iServer.exe. Okay, you have to give the path of exe out here. And then you can use the class Internet Explorer Driver. Say I equals to new Internet Explorer Driver. You can use it like this. If I run the code, I'll see my local IE6. This is IE6 on my server. This has opened. Right? So, hold on. It opened 2 times. Just a minute. Alright, yeah, it's fine now. Okay. So this is the initial page for WebDriver server. It's written on the Internet Explorer. Alright. Now, sorry. I'll just comment this code and I'll go back to Chrome. If I have to navigate to a website on Chrome, then I can write chrome.get the URL of the website like http cnn.com. Right. If I run this code, Chrome will open and it will actually navigate to cnn.com. Right. And if I have to click on a link on CNN and if I have to recognize the objects on CNN and all, I will talk about that. I will talk about that. But how does this internally work? How I am able to navigate to the sites? How is Selenium working internally? This is a question which everybody asks me, right? You really don't have to worry about that because that's the headache of people who have made it. But still, if you want to know the answer, then the answer is JavaScript language.